Recording in progress.
I think we just go ahead and get started.
You would have to have quorum.
We do have quorum. So.
It's three of us. Three.
You ready? Oh, that's it. Yeah. You ready? Good evening. Call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor White,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Rodriguez, Councilmember Ortiz, Councilmember Moreno Mares,
Here.
and Councilmember Garcia.
Here.
Will you all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready? Salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Agenda review? All right. All right. Welcome, everyone. Tonight's fun budget stuff, budget review. So review of the proposed 2026-27 fiscal year budget. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let me know if you are having problems hearing me. Okay, so this is our budget workshop. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you, staff, for taking the time out. This is the slideshow is basically the same length as it was last year. We're going to go over the budget status. And at this point, we're $668,000 away from being balanced. Staff has some recommendations to help get to a balanced budget, but I want to explain and explore those, what we'd be doing in order to do that, because it involves one-time money, and council and the public should be aware that systemically revenues are not keeping up with expenses. So then I'll do a suggested workshop process. It's very simple. And then we'll, I guess, open it up for whatever general fund items that anyone wants to look at. The packet that is available to everyone and the council received is the presentation, and then behind it is a line item detail of all the revenue and expense items, along with capital projects that are kind of in the pipeline. They're categorized in two ways. One is those that would normally be funded by the general fund, and then those that are normally funded by monies received from outside the general fund. So we're open to looking at all of that. All right, so the workshop process, I'll go through the slide presentation in its entirety. It'll be a summary of general fund, revenues, expenditures, CIP or capital projects, and personnel items. Review city council interest, talk to you about how much detail you want to go into and the public wants to go into. We can also, if you'd like, review the ClearGov process and the information that's on there. ClearGov, if you remember, or if you don't know, is our online, really at this point, we're using it a lot for budgeting, but at some point here, hopefully in the next year, we'll have online access to online information for the entire public. It includes CIP projects, expenditure details, funding sources, and timelines. So we're going to use spreadsheets and ClearGov for today's analysis. All right, getting right into it, what you see there is basically the actual numbers for fiscal year 24-25, which is last year, for the general fund, projected where we think we're going to end up at the end of this year, which is probably a month away now, and what we've got in all the details for budget fiscal 26, 27. If you notice, you just look at the revenue line item. I'll just speak in rough terms. I'm not going to go into all the details, but we basically last year came in north of 21 million in revenues. We project a little bit better than what we had anticipated when we budgeted last year at 22 million this year, but we expect to basically go back down to 21 million next year, in large part because of the building moratorium that's coming up. We're losing revenues, and I can go over that detail if and when we want to do that. Not only that, but there's also a number of grants that we have been paid out for in 24, 25, as well as 25, 26, that we are getting smaller amounts for in 26, 27. So we expect basically that picture is still relatively flat revenue-wise. Going down to the next line, expenditures, we were at about 22.4 million last year. So far this year, we've held the line pretty well, 21.2 million, but we do expect that to go up because we still have factored in step increases, just regular normal step increases for the labor force. And yeah, that in and of itself would account for an increase of the magnitude we've got here. But once again, it's relatively flat. And the expenses seem to be going down. And we can talk about that in more detail. So total revenues, less expenditures. So for last year, this is actually showing a deficit of close to $1 million. And the next slide, we'll talk about that a little bit. So far this year, we've got a surplus that we're expecting for the current year, and then the 668,000 that I talked about on the first slide that we're trying to fill that gap. Things to remember, the current year projected should trend with actuals. Budget is considered full staff, full year, best case scenarios. So we all know that labor, our personnel costs are a huge part of what we spend every year. When we budget to be as conservative as possible, we take every single FTE and we say they're all going to be staffed for the entire year, full staff for a full year. That doesn't happen. It hardly ever happens. And so one of our strategies as we get to them will be, if people leave, how fast do we actually fill those positions? Because they can be significant savings. But when you don't have full staff,
Service.
That's right, service suffers. So that's going to be in play as well. Grants over the past 2 or 3 years have played a bigger and bigger role in Greenfield's revenues and expenditures, and of course the variations in both. And I kind of hit on that on the summary page. This is the most important part of this. Recall from last year's budget, the verbiage in red was actually in this presentation last year. ARPA monies, which is the grant monies that every city and county got from the federal government in the wake of COVID to try and stimulate things. We received those in, I think, 21, 22 or 22, 23, probably both those years. Oh, here it is, 21, 22, 22, 23. We didn't spend it right out of the gate. We didn't spend it in those years. And so we had surplus revenues in those years because we didn't spend it. And I had warned last year, just when we do spend it, and we had to spend a chunk of it last year for wastewater treatment plant, emergency repairs, and the design, that we would see deficits in the years that we've done, that we actually spent it, yet we didn't get the money in that year. It was already in fund balance. It was already in reserves, as it were. So if you look at this actual fiscal year 24-25, that is just about what we put into the wastewater treatment plant, the $1 million, 917,000. The actual deficit for 24-25 is due to using the surplus. That's what I just said. Okay, great. So getting right into revenues, we've summarized our revenues based on the type of revenues that we get. And if you look, if you've got a packet from the front table or the back table back there, you'll see basically the same things. And then behind it, you'll see details, line by line details. These are groupings of revenues. And it's important to note that if you've got questions about why things went up or why things went down, you can probably find which specific line item they relate to on those sheets that follow. So I'm going to go through here. If you take a look quickly, things are pretty static. I mean, tax revenues are going up slowly. Other taxes, we are expecting them to go down a little bit this year, but kind of rebound a little bit next year, and that's mostly sales tax related. Franchise fees, we did have a big bump in the current year for franchise fees. We expect that to continue. Fees and permits, that is we had a good year this year, and we expect to have about the same, but that's actually where our building permits are going to be. Now, when we talk about how we potentially balance the budget, I'll have an item on building permits. Revenue from other agencies, there's a big dip there. And if you look at the detail, it has everything to do with being reimbursed for grants. There's actually, so this decrease in revenues from other agencies, it's 2.1 million to about 800,000. So that's what?
1.3.
1.3 million. 1.225 million relates to grants. Not, we received them the previous 2 years, but we're getting a smaller amount this year. And that's just the nature of grants. They're good for X amount of time. Fines and forfeitures is staying relatively steady. It's down a little bit. Charges for services is down a little bit. Recreational user fees is actually up a little bit. Our other revenues, it's trending down. Yeah, it looks like there's a number of smaller items that it's basically trending flat, it looks like. You look at the detail, there's a couple of numbers that have changed, but they're not significant amounts of money. And then our interfund transfers are relatively static. It's down a little bit, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. All right, I'm going to show you sales taxes, and those go into other taxes, I believe.
Right.
Yeah, our other taxes. So this is about a 10-year graph of our sales and use tax revenues. That's all of them. That's our regular Bradley Burns, which is the 1% sales tax that we all get. And then the two measures that the city had passed a number of years ago. So this is all of them. You'll see them grouped at the bottom, and they go up, and this is all done month by month. And this is a graph that shows the trends. So you see we had at the beginning between 2016 and 2020, let's say, it kind of went up and kind of leveled out, went down a little bit. Then we had a big spike. This is, I'm not sure exactly why, but it coincides with the COVID years. COVID years, is that a thing? Or did I just make that up?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Anyway, and then since 21-22, it's been relatively flat and actually tending to decline a little bit. That now we've only received sales tax receipts through either March or April. I can't remember which one it is. Oh, today's May? Yeah, we're in May, so this is actually through March. And then the dotted lines is what we expect to happen for April, May, June. And that's based on 10 years of monthly details and how things trend. And we just got our March numbers 2 or 3 days ago. They're about the same. I was thinking with the 2 previous months that they were actually rebounding a little bit, but it doesn't look like it is because March's numbers do not look terrific. So that's our sales tax trend, and that's how we budgeted. I don't think we budgeted to go down, but I think we were very conservative about how much we think it's going to go up. All right, so that's it for revenues. It's very flat. And so now I want to go through by department. And I'm going to go over the total expenditures and then hit a couple of highlights. But I'm not going to hit every single department unless you want me to. I'm going to leave it to anybody that wants to talk about the line items. We can do that as well. All right, so in total, last year's expenditures were about 2.4 million. This year's we're looking at about 22.4 million. This year we're looking at about 21.2 million, and we expect that to go up to about 21.6 million. Those amounts well, so I think the total, no, I didn't do that. Okay, so the difference between 21.2 million this year that we're expecting and 21.6 million is about 2.1% is what it's going up, which would be less than what we think inflation is. So there are a lot of, we spent a lot of time, every department head and supervisors went through this line by line at every department, and we cut a lot of things. If you look at so this includes everybody's payroll and benefits, all these numbers too. I don't know at the macro level what a normal increase percentage would be just because of step increases. But we think the step increases themselves account for approximately $220,000. So more than half of the increase here is probably due to step increases for all staff. But zooming out a little bit, it's relatively flat. I will look at city councils about the same. Community engagement, don't forget much of what they do is funded by grants. And so when we get big grants, and we've got a couple of good ones, their expenditures go up, but they're offset by grant revenues. City manager is up. We're going to have, I've got an assistant, Aaron, and we're basically, so we're a little bit higher for 26, 27. City center facility is static. City attorney is around 200,000. City clerk is up. We've got an election coming up, so that's going to be the bulk of that increase. Finance department had been short-staffed pretty much for a big chunk of this year. They're coming back to around 600,000 this year. Utility billing is going up-ish compared to this year. Police, we've got two main drivers of expenses here, going from 7.6 down to 7.5, and then we expect about 7.7, and that is having both the Axon system renewals, software renewals, and the flock camera renewals. coming in full years. So that drives that expense up a little bit. One of our issues, well, we'll talk about it when we talk about balancing the budget again, is public safety overtime. It is a very large number. And when we go in and take a look at that, we see that it's a systemic issue. Having only enough, let's say, police officers to cover the shifts the number of shifts that we have causes an issue when one of those officers is away, whether they're sick, whether they're on personal leave, whether they're on training. Anytime it's backfilled, if you only have just the right amount of officers, then you got to get an officer, and that officer is getting paid overtime. So it's kind of a systemic thing, and we'll take a look at, we've done a lot of analysis related to their overtime, where it's coming from, and we've got a potential solution to help save money, but it is counterintuitive because it involves potentially hiring 2 new officers. But the hiring of the 2 new officers could potentially save us a couple $100,000 a year in overtime. So we'll get into that when we get into that. And animal control, code enforcement's flat. Fire, once again, it went down this current year, but it's back up to just a little bit more than it was last year. Public Works is flat to down a little bit. Recreation is up, and we can talk about that. Community day care center is about the same. Community development is down significantly compared to last year, and this year it's down quite a bit, but we expect even more cuts for 2 reasons. One is Paul Mugen's passing. We have not replaced him at this point because staff feels that with the building moratorium and basically the community development part of the cities have kind of stopping, that we probably don't need to have a director at this point. We do have some really good contractors that are helping to fill in, and that is proving to be less expensive. And then if there's decision to be made at the city level, I can make those decisions based on the recommendations of our consultants. And then the general expenditures is down mostly because we've reallocated them amongst the departments. I want to be as descriptive as possible. So bottom line, once again, is it's pretty, in total, the expenditures are still pretty static. They are up 2.1% over what we expect to do the current year. And to me, that falls within the realm of cost of living adjustments. Our cash balance, I like to show this because a lot of this information is not great information, but I also want to show that the city has got money, but this is not necessarily money that is accessible to the general fund. Some of it is, absolutely, but there's a lot of it that belongs to the Water Enterprise Fund. A lesser amount belongs to wastewater, and the remainder of it, with the exception of $4 or $5 million, is in impact funds or special revenue funds. Mm-hmm. So if you take a look at this graph, shows basically our ending cash balance, and I'm assuming that where we were at the end of April, which is this fiscal year 26, the last number there, that we'll end up around there at the end of June. You can take a look at it's going up and then it kind of goes down. There's a big hump there, about year 22, 23, 24. That's the ARPA money coming in over 22 and 23. And then we spent it, not all of it. So if you look at a trend line, let's say, for that, it's going to end up, we're kind of on the trend line over the past golly, 14 years, is that what it is? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 15 years. So we're on a trajectory that's not down, but I think it's a healthy cash flow situation. And having this money around is necessarily going to help us with the cash flow changes that we're going to have as we build out the wastewater treatment plant. Okay, moving on. So what we just talked about, or what I just talked about, no one else is doing any talking. What I just talked about is operational. So it's basically everything to get our normal work done. It does not include any kind of money spent on capital projects, nor does it address anything related to labor negotiations. Labor negotiations, we've got five member unions, organizations. We are at the table with all 5 of them this year. We've met with almost all of them. We've met with 4 of them, I think, with the last one coming up next week, POA. And this is part of what we need to deal with. So we got labor and we got CIP. This is a list of almost every capital improvement project that we want to get done that is funded by sources outside of the general fund. And you'll see what those funding sources are in that second to the last column. So they're either coming from grants or the sewer and water enterprise funds, and you can see the whole list there. A lot of this is public works projects. One of them that's not on here because we've spent couple of years developing this list is the design and the first steps in the wastewater treatment plant, right? And I think, Jamie, you said that amount totals $23.6 million to be spent this next coming year, all grant monies. So that belongs on this list. So there's a lot of things that are being done capital improvement wise, but not being funded by the general fund. Capital improvements projects that we've got on our list that would be paid for by the general fund, total around 2.12 million. The only one that's here is, and I highlighted it, City Dog Park, because of the fact that we're leveraging, I think it's $800,000 worth of grant monies with $44,000 of general fund monies. And we're at a point, in fact, I think at the next city council meeting, you'll be looking at the contract related to setting everything up for this to be a go here in the next month or 2. And dog parks, I don't think that's as complicated as a wastewater treatment plant, so it shouldn't take that long to get done, hopefully summertime, early fall. But that 44,000 is included in the budget. These other ones are not at this point. So the point being, if anybody sees things here, or if there are other capital projects, and I think there are, that people want to see getting underway, here's the list of things that we've got on our list, and we can talk about the other ones. So in summary, the general fund is short $668,000. It can be balanced, but there are choices to make. Okay. So, and a number of these choices are one-time monies, which means, well, in a general rule, finance rule, in municipal finance rules are, whenever you're getting one-time money, you should only spend that on one-time expenses. Because if you spend it on things that occur year like hiring people, you're going to be funded for the first year, but you have no idea that if you're gonna be, how you're gonna pay those people following years. So the first item on here to help us potentially balance the budget is a bit of an anomaly because it's sales tax revenue that would be collected on, I'll try to make this as simple as possible, on a portion of the modular equipment for the wastewater treatment plant. If you recall, when we talked about the wastewater treatment plant, we're going to buy 4 MBR, modular bioreactors. They're 4 units that look like railroad cars. Each of those costs around $7 million a piece. But we get charged sales tax on those. And according to the State Board of Equalization, if you're buying equipment that is worth, or that you pay more than $200,000 for, it can be treated as being purchased in the municipality in which whoever's buying it, kind of like cars are now, right? So when you buy a car in Gilroy or wherever you buy it, that sales tax money comes, if you live in Greenfield, it comes back to Greenfield. So there is a rule, I guess, or a part of the sales tax code that says, well, if you're buying something worth over 200,000, you can have that sales tax come back. That's awesome. So we're trying to figure out, hey, can we get all of that? Because that's like $625,000. But the way that at least the agreement is stipulated now, they will bill us as they're building our modules. The building process takes 15 months and it won't start until March, April, May, June, March of 2027, meaning we will have accrued expense for 4 out of 15 months. That ends up being around $180,000. It's a one-time revenue, and it would help balance the budget. I think the budget, my feelings about the budget really revolve around, we need to generate more revenues. The expenses, they're going up. Expenses always go up, but I think they're pretty much contained. There's a couple more things in here that we want to talk about, but really it's a revenue problem. It's not going up the way that it has gone up, and we need to do a number of things to help that. In this case, we got $180,000 that we believe we will be accruing by June of 2027. That's the end of the fiscal year we're budgeting for. That staff believes, I believe, it makes sense for now until we can actually wrap our arms around this revenue shortfall and doing whatever we can expense-wise, because we'll have a year to do it, to make real changes, real systemic positive changes in the way we do things, so that I don't know if it recommends a pretty big word, but recommend using this $180,000 to help with that $668,000 deficit. So sales tax from wastewater treatment plant equipment. The second one is permit revenue increase with the expectation of the recreation center breaking ground before June 30th of 2027. So whenever design, we've got capital projects, they've got design fees, they've got building construction permits, all those things being paid into the general fund. This is a big project. It's several $1 million. We've already got 8.5 and 6 million. We've applied for other grants. This is going to be a $20 to $25 million project. Well, if we can get this going to the point that we can charge basically this grant, because construction permits, design fees, all those things. We estimate that to be at least $150,000. That would normally, those permits and fees go into the general fund. But once again, this is really an exception. This isn't gonna happen every year. And so it's really kind of like one-time money that we would want to spend on one-time things. But in my mind, if we have the idea of going forth and implementing cost-cutting and revenue-enhancing things now, a month before the year, and then we have all year to cut costs and work on expanding revenues, I think that's a good bet that we can balance our budget. This money is, we need to make sure that we're breaking ground by 6/30/2027, and we can actually use this to help balance the budget. So that's 330 of our 662. Another, I don't want to say permanent, but systemic cut in expenses could come from changing the police department scheduling from 2 12-hour shifts to establishing a third shift and adding 2 officers. We could significantly reduce overtime, netting between $150,000 and $200,000. So it would cost around, I think the numbers that I saw was around, to hire 2 people with benefits, $230,000, yet we've got about $610,000 in overtime. Some of that is systemic. We're still gonna have some overtime, but the big part of what we can address is shift coverage. It's called shift coverage. It's just because we only have 20 officers and we have 20 positions, anytime one of them is gone for whatever reason, one of those officers needs to fill it, and it's always at overtime. So we can do a couple of things. It's also an issue, and we got the police department here. Sergeant Matt Key knows all this stuff because he went to school and all that, right? Yes. So that's real savings. That's not one-time savings. That's an issue we've been dealing with every year. But it can actually, it not only will help save overtime, but now we've got 2 more officers. They have explained to me, and they can explain to you, that they've got much more flexibility about when they're putting people on the street. They can put them on, at a time, Monday morning's probably not a real heavy time for crime, but they can move the officers around to where they've got better staffing at times when they feel like we need it. So that's an option. That's between 150 to 200,000. And when I look at this, I'm a conservative person, but I think the 200,000 is definitely doable. So that's sort of 180, 150, 330 plus 2 is 530,000 is where I'm at right now. Those are the things that I think don't hit us, in the gut, because those are, if we buy into what we think these are going to do, that's great. The next 3 potentials are actually modifying personnel, and they're a little bit harder to take, but they can be implemented. The first one is not so bad, but it comes with a cost. All 3 of these come with the same cost, since they're personnel, and it involves either a hiring freeze, meaning nothing changes if no one leaves. But if somebody leaves, we're not necessarily going to fill that position. And what does that do? It saves us money, number 1. But number 2, it reduces services. Because if we were to keep doing the same services, then we're paying overtime to somebody to get all that work done. So, and that's, we can make decisions as we move along, but that's one potential way of potentially filling the smaller gap that we've got now. We don't know what the benefit is yet because we don't know who might not be here. And we don't know when they might be leaving, so that's a little bit hard to do, but it is a known thing that can be done, and it makes sense to I think, make a decision on it. The second personnel modification is temporarily rescinding step increases or raises. We looked at that. It's about 220,000, as I had mentioned before. So that's a possibility. That one's pretty straight. It's just, yeah, you get your normal reviews, but you're not getting a step increase like you might get. And the third one we talked about last year, and I put it on here, and the amount is what we talked about last year. I didn't go through any new numbers, but it's a work furlough. So it's basically deciding that we are going to only be open 4 days a week or whatever it is, with a potential benefit up to $340,000. So that, I mean, those are a lot of options, and they come with a number of issues, but that's what we've come up with, and we're always looking for new ways to either cut costs or stimulate revenues. Also know that this other personnel related, we don't have any additional personnel requested. Last year, if you recall, for the first time in a long time, we only had 2 vacancies. This year, we have no vacancies. We're fully staffed. And then related to funded by other funds. Oh, yeah, so we don't have any, we're not requesting any additional people. And so we don't have any funded by any other funds. The key thing is highlighted in yellow. Currently, we do not have funding available for labor negotiations for this year. So that if we're looking at requests from labor groups that involve money, significant money, it's at this point, we don't have it. And then the last one is total CIP requested. We're at 10.6 million, which you saw the detailed list of, funded by other funds, and then funded by the general fund. It's the 44,000. That's our match for the dog park. Since the budget's so tight, we will monitor revenue and expenditure trends closely. As scenario changes, we'll update council and the community regarding priorities and possible changes to the plans. So I think at this point, I think that's it. Yep. We can do whatever council wants to do. You can ask questions.
I think we should probably go to public comments first, and then I do have a bunch of questions. I'm sure other council people do also. So I will go ahead and open it up for public comments. Anybody that wants to address anything about the budget.
Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me for my voice. It's not doing too well tonight. Well, hello, everyone. I'm Mark Solano. I serve as the president of the Tom Rogers Historical Museum. We are requesting that the city Greenfield put us on the budget that is being discussed this evening. Can you all hear me? Okay?
No, you might want to try and speak into the mic a little bit more, please.
We have 3 other historical museums. Okay, that'll work. 3 other historical museums that are helping us in our endeavor. Soledad Historical Museum, King City Historical Museum at San Lorenzo Park, and the Monterey County Historical Museum, located at the end of the Veranda Road in Salinas. We hope that the city of Greenfield will show the pride in our history and heritage by joining with the other museums with financial support. Thank you for your time, but right, by the way, though, I was a member of the council for 16 years. I'm bragging. A 7-year part of the school board and of the, now I forgot the name of it, but another 5 years serving at the city.
Planning
I would
Commission.
like to thank you very much. And it's almost been 3 minutes, so I'm going to sit down. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Evelina Torres. I am the secretary. I used to be the treasurer, but I'm the secretary. So I'm really hoping we've changed the name to Greenfield Historical Society. I hope you guys can put us in your budget. Thank you very much and have a good evening.
Thank you. Anyone else in chambers? I do see one hand raised.
John Huerta Jr.
Go ahead, John.
Oh, thank you. Very good evening, Mayor and City Council. Tonight's comments for the city's budget workshop, I'd like to start out by supporting the city manager's proposal to hire 2 additional police officers to help reduce the high cost of overtime expenditures. It seems to be an ongoing issue. In addition, adding 2 more police officers to the department is a positive investment, strengthens our public safety services for our community. And then, so I support that. I think city manager honestly was pretty strong on his points on that proposal to the city council. Secondly, I'm not prepared, but I'd like to find out more about the ARPA monies and see if what I know it looks like in the report from the city manager and your finance that the ARPA money not used is now in the reserves. But my question was, during the time as the city was preparing to build the new wastewater treatment plant, wasn't ARPA monies used to for expenditures for the planning and design and the engineering work? So I thought maybe since now the city is preparing to receive substantial grant awards from the state, that somehow some of that money could be reallocated back to the community for other ARPA design projects that many cities in California have used their funding for. So basically, will the city or the committee, I should say, get refunded, or if that didn't happen, then I'd like to know how that ARPA money was used, or what is the actual reserve amount, so the city, having some of these shortfalls, could use some of those reserves to help out in between time. And then third, Mayor, on the revenues comments that your city manager made, I believe that too, but also, as any city in California, you got to tighten the belt, and you have to also find cost in programs throughout the city to help not go over the budget on items. So I believe it's true that it's a revenue issue, but also it's also tightening your belt on overall in all departments, whether that's staff.
Finish up a little bit here.
Okay, thank you. Whether
Go
that's, whether that's staff or program services that are provided to the community, I don't know. That's up to the council to decide those things. But I think that also tightening the belt besides seeking, new revenues to help your situation financially. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Looks like we do have one more there. Doesn't have a name on it.
Yeah, it doesn't have a name. The Samsung. Go ahead.
Good day, City Council. My name is Laura, and I just have a question regarding the rec center. There is money, you guys have already received some grant money. Why hasn't it been started? We're not asking for it to get built all at once. I believe we have been told it could be done by phases. So the longer you guys wait to get something started, the more it's gonna cost. And at the end, we're gonna be losing this money because it's grant money. Where is this money being held? Another question I have, we could be getting revenue. There's a lot of code violations around the city, left and right. I mean, it's not fair that I paid already 6 permits for my house to build modifications, and other people are building without any permits, yet nobody's being fined, but I do have to pay for permits. I mean, if that's gonna be the case, then I would like to get refunded for the permits that I've already paid, if no law is gonna be enforced here in town. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I can answer some questions, a couple of questions that they had.
Sure, go ahead.
So related to Mr. Huerta's question related to the ARPA monies, yes, we did spend, as of now, all of the ARPA monies have been spent. The last things we spent them on did relate to the wastewater treatment plant. The first amount was for emergency repairs. And then we also did spend some money on the actual design. And yep, it's been requested of the state that if we in fact get reimbursed those monies, what would be the disposition of those monies? Because we don't know if they need to stay, since it was already allocated to the wastewater treatment plant, whether they need to stay there or whether it can be used by the general fund, because as we know, ARPA monies all started out as general fund monies. So we don't have an answer back yet, but that is actually a good question.
Yeah, that was one of my questions.
Yep. Also, Ms. Morales, regarding the recreation center, we have not received, to my knowledge, any money from the grants.
Yes, so the grants that we've received for the recreation center as of now, we haven't received any of that funding until we start construction. Because right now we're currently finalizing construction documents, but we're not going to see any of that until we spend it, because it's through a reimbursement process. Also, we're not at risk of losing the money. I know that other cities also that applied for that first Prop 68 grant, that's $8.5 million. Still, a lot of them are in construction phase, and the state is actually very aware of the high cost, the increase in cost to build, and there might even be another extension offered to a lot of cities. But yes, as of now, we're not at risk of losing this funding, and we're at a really good point to start construction soon. But yeah, we're not going to see none of that money until we start building. We need to spend it and then reimburse it.
Okay, so we have not received any grant funding for the rec center. But as I just mentioned in the presentation, we actually are going to be coming in the next 2 council meetings with a contract for that pre-construction work. So I think Jesus and I talked about it yesterday about whether we actually need to have a budget before we can actually say we're going to spend the money. Maybe we'll include Jennifer in the conversation, but it's coming really soon. Yeah, that's all I got.
Right. Council questions?
How much would it cost for the visitor center? Just so we know.
How much would it cost for the visitor center?
Somewhere between 250 to 300,000.
Between 250 and 300,000.
Do you know how much we've spent so far?
Let's see, Rich.
We've spent, I want to say about 280.
It's the
Roughly.
250, 280. Yep.
Get us to-
Well, there you go. That was my same question, but is the Tom Rogers Committee aware of the money, of the funds that have been used already, so they don't feel like we haven't done anything?
Yes.
Sorry, my name's Heather Miles. I'm on the board for the committee. We did get somewhat of a rough list of what monies were spent, but we did have some questions regarding utilities and why that wasn't budgeted in what portions of the monies were spent and what monies were left was one of our questions as well. And moving forward, is there any plan to proceed with the whole construction, the whole project, the museum project? I think it's important that people, especially the community, are aware of the history of Greenfield and this whole county, the whole valley. I'm a Native American Salinan Indian from here. I'm also in very close contact with James for the Monterey County Historical Board. I mean, it's just something that all of the towns, you know, up and down this valley should be a little more involved in my opinion, as far as the history. Looking back a couple hundred years, a lot has changed. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Yes. So we met with Mr. Savano and did give him the run sheet on everything that we spent on the visitor center up to that point, and we haven't done anything since then. So those would be current numbers,
Okay.
which I can supply to whoever would like it.
All right. Any other questions concerning budget items? Okay, I have quite a few, so. I think you covered some of them on your presentation, but I want to go ahead and get some clarification. On slide number 4, I believe it is, the one with the general overview. The revenues are down about $1 million. What happened there is I think you covered a little of that, but
Yeah.
to clarify, just so we're all perfectly clear on this.
So if you look at page 1 of the detail, there is of the revenue detail.
Right.
Go down to the revenue from other, that'd be section 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The 7th line item is Cal OES grants or DHS. This year was 818,000 because we got the bulk of the money for all of those for the storms that we had 4 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and we got that this year. We still have about 175 left. So there's $625,000 reduction from this year. We also, if you look at the Californians for All internship grant, which is the 4th line item from the bottom, we had 216,000 last year. We had 306,000 this year. It's going to be around 200,000 next year. It's roughly another 100,000. Big one is the bottom line for BSCC, which is the Prison Bureau of Corrections, giving us a grant for the youth things. We don't know exactly how much we're going to spend this year. We know we've got a grant, but rather than not knowing, and since we're only going to get a grant for as much as we spend. It's a net zero, so we haven't included that at this point.
Okay, so it's showing up under revenues, but it's not showing up.
It's not showing up on revenues. It's not showing up on expenses.
Okay,
But when we do know what that is, we'll come for a supplemental appropriation and revenue, and they'll be opposite and equal.
show how we're going to spend it, basically.
Right.
Okay.
So that's 1.225 million.
Okay. On slide number 5, this has to do with the ARPA money. Just wanted a clarification on that again. How much ARPA money did we get originally?
Yeah,
And I know we used most of it on the wastewater treatment plant for plans and various projects that we did out there. Any idea when we'll hear back from this, how we can use that money and
yeah,
basically, is that something we're going to be able to?
yeah. Well, I'm hoping it's within the next week or so, so that
Okay.
we can actually make budget decisions based on that. And then don't forget, I'm not sure exactly how much it is, but it should be in excess of, well, I'd say $500,000. Because I know that a chunk, I thought it was around $1 million that we forwarded to the wastewater treatment plant. About half of that, I believe, was for emergency repairs, which is not the design. And so it's the design money that would be reimbursed by the grant.
Right.
Right.
Not the repairs.
Right, right. So I'm hoping within the next week to 2 weeks, we get an answer. And once again, I believe if I was the state, what I'd probably say is, no, you gave it to the wastewater treatment plant. If it gets reimbursed by a grant for the wastewater treatment plant, that's where the money will stay. But you never know. We can argue and surmise that, hey, this really was general fund money to begin with. So we'll hopefully in the next week or so.
Okay.
But yeah, and don't forget, that's one-time money again. So we need to be careful
Right.
about how we
Yeah,
spend it.
you have to be careful. We don't want to put that
Right.
in the wrong place. Slide 10 on the capital improvements. So we've got $10 million in the pipeline for capital improvements that are grant funded or outside funded.
Or enterprise fund funded.
Right. Okay. And just a smaller 44,000 at this point for the general fund funded.
Yes.
Right. That was. If you could go over the revenues, Paul, as far as so people understand the tax implications there, exactly which one is which. So that, they know what's standard, what's,
Sure. Yeah, because
where the cannabis is coming in and where it's, been spent. Just so we, respect the full transparency situation. We want to make sure people can
All
see
right,
that.
so if you want to look at the detail, it's going to be the first page of the detail. We'll be looking at, we can look at both tax revenue, which is section 1, and other taxes, which is section 2. So tax revenue, section 1, is really property taxes. They come in all, secured, unsecured, prior year secured and unsecured, and VLF, which is vehicle in lieu fees, has to do with automobiles. It's a big amount, but it's really an easy way for the state to distribute vehicle license fees to local jurisdictions.
So that's the 2.8.
Yes, I'm sorry, that's the 2.8, right? And that continues to go up as prices of cars go up and as more cars are being purchased. So we expect that to continue to go up as it has gone up every year since I've watched it, no matter where I've been. That's just a function of, it's like property taxes. They're always going up because it's the way the
Price of cars
system
go
is.
up.
Right, right. Property tax 102 is so it says 102-41150 property tax. It's the second line from the bottom in that first section. That's actually a fire portion of property taxes. And it has to do with the pass-through from the fire district to the city. If you see the big number, 462,000 from last year, that was actually a doubling up from the prior year.
They paid twice.
They paid, yeah, they didn't pay the prior year, so they paid twice last year. And the amount is around 200,000. Once again, that will go up every year as we're doing it. The third one is Measure C, which is the measure that was passed when the city assumed the fire district personnel and we established the city fire department. Everyone felt that, hey, the city of Greenfield had been giving money to the fire district to keep it going. And so as a term of the agreement for the city taking over the fire district personnel, the fire district still exists, but we employ the people. That this Measure C would bring in, it's an assessment, property tax. It's a property assessment that's paid for by the district members. So it's not just City of Greenfield, but it's outside the city as well, for us to provide personnel for fire. For the fire
And that's
department.
assessment that's done per parcel, correct?
Yes, that's a parcel tax or a parcel assessment. I don't know if it's the same thing. So that again is also going up little by little. One thing that we just started talking about, we realized earlier, a couple of weeks ago, that there is an actual COLA that can be implemented that I don't think that we've implemented in the past. And so Jennifer, I think, is in the middle of looking at, okay, so what do we actually have to do to implement that? I'm not sure when that actually gets done, but that's a potential increase in revenue. Yeah, right. So that's tax revenue. The other tax revenue is the first two is sales taxes. Prop 172 sales tax is Prop 172 it really was an allocation of state income, state sales tax that was passed, many years ago, 25 years ago, that said that no, part of your sales taxes have to be used, a half cent of every, whatever, dollar, I don't know, whatever you got for sales taxes had to be spent on public safety. It was called the half-cent public safety sales tax. Mm-hmm. So we track that separately. As you can see, it doesn't amount to a whole lot.
$4,400. Yeah.
That's right, $4,400. And that, I don't know why there was 19,000 in last year, but 4,400 is probably closer to what we get. And that needs to be be spent on public safety. Not a hard thing for us to do. The second line item is our regular sales tax, referred to as Bradley Burns sales tax. It's the 1% that every municipality gets, no matter what they've got in other sales tax initiatives. So this is our 1% that we've always gotten, and that is, yes, we went from 1.8 last year, it's about 1.9 this year, and we're expecting things to turn around slightly. We're at 1.93-ish. We don't know. I mean, you see the trend right there. It's not good, but I think the economy is going to come around. And we also have to remember, we're not the only ones in the situation that we're in. Municipalities all over California are doing the same thing. And their revenues, with some exceptions being the coastal cities where tourism has picked up, but for a lot of us it's not. So that's our regular Bradley Burns sales tax. The cannabis business tax is the business tax that we charge to cannabis businesses based on square footage for cultivation, for packaging, for manufacturing, and the part that we charge the dispensary for based on their sales taxes. Based on their their sales, their gross sales. That is very steady. It's around 2.4 million. And we don't expect that to change much because we have good cannabis people that mostly pay their taxes when they're due. And we don't see that changing. There are talks about other cannabis organizations wanting to do business in Greenfield, but that's very, very premature to talk about
So when
that.
people ask, this is the amount that is actually coming in
Oh,
on an
yeah,
annual basis.
absolutely right.
So it's been 2.4 pretty consistently for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And that's
Transient occupancy tax, that's hotel tax. So all of our hoteliers pay, and we talked about it earlier, 2 months ago, related to our tax rate is 8%. City of Carmel, I only know this because I was talking to the city manager there yesterday. They've got a ballot measure to increase theirs from 10% to 12%. 10%, and my whole career, 10% was really what everybody, this goes back decade and a half. We're at 8%. And so for us, now it's not a huge amount, but we hope at some point, and the bulk of this comes from our RV park. So they do a really good business. So we have an opportunity to increase revenues through our TOT, but it would be have to go to the voters. And historically, TOT measures going to the voters, since the voters are members of our community, they don't normally pay TOT tax. It's a good bet that we could do it. It would just be a matter of us sitting down and crunching the numbers to find out how much do we want to go up and can we put it on the ballot. Business license tax is exactly what sounds like. It's the business licenses that we collect money for. It's an actual, business licenses aren't really a license. It's a tax that we place on licenses. Utility user taxes are all of our utilities, gas, electricity, cable. They pay us contractually, pay us a certain percentage of what they make in our city back to us as a user utility tax. And that is, not sure why the 980 from last year, but we're making, we're being conservative and making sure that we don't overshoot something. Sales tax, Prop 172. Okay, so this is I'm sorry. So you saw the sales tax Prop 172 at the top of this section. That's for PD. And the other one is for Fund 102, which is fire. I'm not sure why that one's so much more, but we can look into that. We might have an agreement of how we allocate the two. One of them, once again, don't forget that in the end of the day, we're paying for the firefighters, we're paying for the personnel, but we're doing that but there is still a district.
Well, until you've got your Measure C, your district is a little larger too than just the city.
That's right. And so the district is a larger geographic area. And then we have our two other transactions and use taxes, Measure V or X, depending on how far back you go, which is a 1% sales tax, like the Bradley Burns. And then we also have our 0.75% sales tax, Measure W. Those numbers are not the same. I mean, the 1% isn't the same because there actually are differences in the way that they calculate some of this. So the 1% Bradley Burns is different than the 1% Measure VX. But the point is they should be kind of converging as time goes on. A lot of it has to do with how they're collecting and distributing and allocating sales taxes from regional warehouses like Amazon, and where they're allocated. All right, so that's the two tax sections.
Right. Then we have franchise fees, correct? Since-
Oh, yep. You want to go through all these? Okay. Yeah, so we also contractually obligated are the cable franchise fees, electricity franchise fees, gas, and then recycling franchise fees. Those are all contractually obligated, and it's based on their sales, once again, for their services.
Okay.
Fees and permits. The big one there is actually construction permits. So once again, that's going to be the one that's going to be negatively impacted most by the building moratorium. We've only, we decreased it down to about $100,000 because we think the building moratorium is going to be coming in and there's not going to be that much building going on, obviously. But the other permits that are going to happen prior to June 30th of 2027, which is the end of the fiscal year, will be the building construction permits that are going to be issued for the wastewater treatment plant. And so we plugged in $200,000 for that to be being conservative in making sure that, you know, we don't, I mean, we will be able to charge the construction permits to the wastewater plant, and we'll be using those dollars coming out of the enterprise fund to fund a little bit of the general fund. Keeping in mind, again, those really are one-time revenues.
Okay.
Encroachment permits, we don't see a big change in that. Grading permits, same thing. Cannabis permit fees, those are really fees related to the regulation of cannabis. Anytime that we've got to go inspect or anytime we've got to have meetings with the cannabis people, we keep track of how much money we're spending because those need to be reimbursed to us. They aren't significant, and we estimate them to be around $5,000 this coming year. Other permits, we don't know what those are. It's just miscellaneous, $100. Garbage fee revenue. So there was a big jump between last year and this year from 1.8 to $2.3 million. That had to do with garbage fee increases. And when these garbage fee revenues go up because the rates went up. Mm-hmm. Those have been fully impacted now for this year, and so we expect them to go up by a modest amount next year. Commercial organic solid waste revenue, that is just going to be static, basically. I think it was a percentage increase that we increased it this year, as well as the solid waste surcharge revenue. That went up again this year because of rate increases. And then we've got a modest increase expected for this coming year. Revenue from other sources, state mandated costs. That's always state mandated costs are basically costs that the state mandates us to incur expenses for their benefit. They're telling us we have to keep track of X, Y, and Z, or we have to do task 1, 2, and 3. We keep track of what it costs us to do them, then we file with them. And if they've mandated us to do certain things, they will, historically, they will reimburse it.
Sometimes.
The trend is away from reimbursing mandated costs. Not a great trend. State police revenues, post, so these are police department revenues coming in. It's I think it's post-training dollars that are coming in. That's very static. School resource officer. So when we provide resource officers to the schools, it's done by contract, and they base the school district or school districts reimburse us, right? So we've got the salary and benefits, and then the revenue line here is for those particular officers. The big one that we talked about earlier, Cal OES grants and Department of Homeland Security. We got big grants, basically reimbursements of expenses from prior years. This year, we expect that to be, we don't have that much left to collect. So that was our big decrease in revenues for that one line item is, $625,000. Moving down, we're kind of in the grant section now. That's why you see it spotty. We have grants in some years. We don't have them in others. We got new ones coming this year. So we go down to asset forfeiture and equitable sharing revenue. So asset forfeiture, I know police department and public works comes to council when they're getting rid of old equipment. A lot of times it'll be sold at auction. As well as when the police department collects forfeited assets. Might want to guess what that is, but it's evidence that might be money. It might be a number of things, assets. After those cases are adjudicated, the police department will get a portion of whatever those assets are, because they're not going back to who they came from, because those are ill-gotten gains. That's right. So the county prosecutors department office, the police departments that are responsible for taking those cases to court will be reimbursed by the state and the county for asset seizures.
Okay. I think you've covered.
Is this fun?
The large. You want to continue?
Because I like it. I mean, this is what I did for 25 years.
I mean, we're into the smaller stuff. If you want to continue, you can. If you don't want to, it's up to you.
I don't want you guys to stay awake.
I just wanted the big ones I wanted to show with the sales tax, the cannabis tax, and the property tax, so people can see exactly where the money coming into the city comes from.
And if I could, I've heard people say, "Oh, what are you doing with all the cannabis money? You're making millions. You're doing that." Yeah, this validates it. We actually are. It's going into the police department, stopping crime. It's going into recreation services. Yeah, it's all here. It's going into paying the people. So yes, we are. 2.4 million a year is going into all this. If we didn't have that money, we'd be in trouble. If we didn't have that 0.75% sales tax that's coming up for a vote in November, we got problems.
Yeah.
These are big deals. So yeah.
All right. Let's see. I did have a couple other questions and then some of the expense questions, but one of the, on the cash balance, I noticed this year that this on slide 8, it is up a little bit this year. It's trending up. When the 25 is 22 million and now 26 is 23 million.
Yeah.
And even though some of the other numbers, show a little different, what's the reasoning on that? Why is
I think it has to do with, if you look at the grant amounts. So we recognize grant revenue when we actually spend the money. It's matching expenditures with revenues. So if you take a look at this, the Cal OES grants, we received over $818,000 this year. That's almost $1 million. We look at Californians for All internship grant that Fabio was doing. That's $306,000. $500,000 from BSCC. So depending on where we are in, these are all measurements except for this year, measurements at June 30th XX. This is where we were. So depending on where we are in the collection and the spending of those items, it could be almost anything, but those are the big numbers that make sense. I think the key is, for me, what it was is seeing that the trend is positive. And what that means to me is we're not in cash problems. Part of it is because of ARPA, and that's right there. You can see it on the picture. It's that big hump. We got it all in and then we spent it. And now we're kind of recovering. Why? Well, because we're getting a bunch of grant revenues coming in. And that the trend is positive. But know that while the wastewater treatment plant cash balance is down because we've been spending a bunch of it, general fund also spent a bunch of it. The water fund has got money. And those impact funds that are collected every time we do a development and that can't be spent unless we're actually expanding capacity in infrastructure, that money is adding up too. We're spending it when we can, and you'll see, if you look at the CIP, Jamie has got, yeah, she's got impact. You look down at the bottom, sewer, 600,000 sewer impact fund for sewer main upgrades and replacements. Tyler lift station replacement, sewer impact fund, because we've got it, not only we're replacing the lift station, but now we've got we need bigger pipes. That's what the impact funds are paid by developers for. They pay it up front on everything, traffic impact, school impact fees. They pay sewer, they pay water, because the impact they're gonna have on the city years down the road is that we need to replace our infrastructure and have bigger pipes. So those monies for all the development that we got going, they add up and they're sitting in our cash balance is what we were really talking about, right?
You mentioned the water fund, but
yeah,
we have money in there, but we are looking at putting in another well, which is an extent.
That's true.
Expensive
Yes.
proposition.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, so another well would come from two places, the water fund itself, and it would also come from impact funds. Why do we need a new well? We need a new well because we have more people. Mm-hmm. Yep, and the pipelines going to and from. So, yep, absolutely.
Shows the 23 million there projected.
Yes.
A lot of it's in the water fund, different areas.
Yes.
How much is available for use for general fund type?
I would say, and this is a guess, but it's probably around 5 million.
Okay. So that's truly a reserve rather than the 23 million that's shown here.
Yes. Well, this isn't shown as a reserve. This is shown as cash.
Yeah, showing
yeah,
cash.
But that is normally a good, unless you got lots of receivables, which we do have receivables, that's normally a good way of looking at fund balance or cash. That's how much equity you've got, because we generally are a cash basis business. The difference though, and it is significant. We apply for and receive lots of grants. And so we just got a $111 million grant, which that's going to turn this thing upside down, because we don't, at some point, this $23 million isn't going to cover a month's worth of expenses on that thing. So, and that's okay, because we've got other ways that we can actually get the cash. But once all that's taken care of, 3-4 years down the road, we can go back to saying, well, that's a good indicator of how much fund balance we have citywide.
I want to shift now to expenses, Paul.
Yep.
I noticed in a lot of the different sections under the expenses, we have some allocations that which went up significantly. I don't know if that's something new bookkeeping wise or exactly what's going on, such as the IT allocation, the HR allocation. There's risk management allocations, and some of those are some of the things I noticed went up significantly. So.
Yeah. So for a number of services that are provided by the city to itself, such as risk management, which is basically buying insurance. We're part of an insurance pool, and basically the pool purchases insurance. We buy excess liability insurance through a different pool, and we basically get charged the sum amount of all those, and it's in the millions of dollars. What we have started doing, we started doing this a number of years ago, but this year we did make some changes to it. The point is is we want to come up with, at a department level, we want to come up with, what does it cost to run this? That includes everything. That includes your IT. We only have one IT department, and the IT department handles everybody, including PD. And I don't think that they would argue with the point that there's a bunch of time that our IT guys spend over in PD. Why? They got a pretty sophisticated system, and it's helping the public, helping us keep the public safe. Well, rather than that just sitting in an IT department, we're actually allocating those expenses where we believe they're actually incurred. So I'll use IT at PD's expense, that so much of what Ed and Luis do is over there working on body worn camera data. This whole Axon system is huge because of the way that we're moving data from here to there. We need servers, we need cloud subscriptions we need all kinds of, IT stuff. What we haven't done, this year, we're kind of sharpening the pencil as far as this stuff getting allocated to departments. So specifically, IT in the PD is larger than it has been. We went over that a number of times, and so what Ed does is anything he can specifically identify that goes to a department, like software subscriptions, those go directly there. And then his time, he allocates it based on how much time he's spending.
So we haven't done that in the past?
Well, we have done it. We haven't done it as accurately as we've done it this year.
Okay.
So you're going to see more operational expense for things like risk management, for IT, for HR. How much does it cost to hire somebody, in the fire department? Because I'm going to pick on fire now for a second. Whenever we hire someone for the fire department, it costs a lot of money. And even if it's background checking volunteers, which is volunteer program's an amazing program, but it ain't cheap to get a volunteer these days. So we're trying to identify what does it really cost? Because at some point, we need to make a decision on all of our departments whether it makes the most sense financially to do all those things in-house. Should we have somebody else do it? Because if it costs us this much, yet someone else is going to say, hey, we can do that for, X minus 200,000, 300,000, and we're getting the same service, why wouldn't we do that? So anyway, so that's the allocation thing. We're doing a better job of it.
Okay.
I'm glad that you explained that allocating, because I was getting a lot of people asking, what do you mean by that?
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it's trying to find the true cost of what's happening. I mean, risk management, HR, IT, those are all things that every department.
Yeah, that kept popping up when I was going through the list.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. City council one, I know this one better because that's us. I see cell phone charges. We don't do cell phones. Is it for the iPads, or exactly what do you think that is?
I think it is for the iPads. Yeah, monthly subscription for iPads? Do you have coverage?
That's what I assumed it was.
Yes. Yeah, that's what it's for.
We don't have cell phones.
No, but
We
you've got
do have
iPads.
So
Yeah.
So it's the phone connection for the iPad.
Okay, that makes sense.
Or you can have it back. We're talking $25,000, so yeah, you can have it back.
2,500.
Oh, 2,500.
Yeah,
Okay,
Never mind.
500.
couple $100 a month. So,
Still, you can have it back.
let's see, interest management. I noticed also health insurance costs seem to have gone up dramatically also.
Yeah. Well, so health insurance costs over the past 3 or 4 years have been very, I'm going to say very decent. They haven't had that much of an increase. This year, it finally,
It's huge.
it finally is rearing its ugly head.
What are we, which item?
Health
Health
insurance.
insurance.
Yeah.
It's under- And that's in almost every section.
It's gonna be in every department, yeah.
Let's see what else.
I was looking at the utility billing. We were supposed to cut our utility billing.
Yeah, we're
It
supposed
says
to,
we were at, am I reading it right? 2,500,000?
2,989,000 utility billing.
Yeah, and we're at
Yeah, let's take a look.
Or basically 3 million. Is that right? Is that an increase of 500?
And
Oh, under the,
waste disposal. Oops.
I don't know, it says 191, this
Yeah.
page, 191.
Oh, right, yeah, so that's what we get charged by our solid waste people. They increased rates. Well, they didn't increase just what they charge our customers. They increased what they're charging us.
That's
So we end up
utility?
paying them.
That's utility?
That's utility, yes. That's not all of utility, because it's water, wastewater, and garbage. Water, wastewater, and garbage, yeah.
Thank you for clarifying that.
let's see here. Most of them are IT, HR.
And can I ask, I'm just going on this main,
Go right in.
the streets, it says it was 531,000 and now it's 683. Is that the potholes and everything?
No, unless, Jamie, if you know what that is? What,
I'm looking for the page.
what's
Oh, I'm
the-
just looking at the
number?
main, I'm just looking at the main page. It
Oh,
says
okay, the main
Line
page.
320.
Oh, streets. So we went from 591 to
Streets.
683. Okay, so that's Department 320.
Is that all the plumbing we've had, all the problems with that? Is
Streets.
that the
is-
emergency stuff that's happening?
No, that, the emergency things that are happening on the Tyler Lift Station are through the enterprise funds.
Okay. So what is the streets then? Why is it 683? What is that?
We have to go through it line by line.
Yeah, so that's
Okay.
okay. We can do that. That's why we're here.
It's 100.
Salaries are up around $30,000, probably because we're fully staffed.
Okay.
Overtime has been decreased by 18,000. On-call pay.
So
we
it's
didn't-
personnel? It's
Say again?
mostly personnel?
Yes, yeah, sorry, these are all personnel items. Yeah,
Is that
health
because-
insurance.
Is that because we filled all positions this
That's,
time?
yeah, partly. I mean, we didn't have that many vacancies last year, but we're fully, so it's gonna, I think we said we had 2 vacancies last year.
Uh-huh.
I'm sure they were both public works. We got them all filled all year. There's a $30,000 increase on health insurance.
Right.
Yeah, so personnel by itself went up $50,000. And I'm going down here, see a bunch of reductions, looking for something that's big, that's an increase.
Yeah, so it's mostly off of personnel. I'm looking at our line items. And we've actually done reductions. So we have, public works services that we've dropped by half to $15,000. And that's usually for something if we have to clean up a fuel spill or things like that. That's almost like an emergency.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you're looking at an increase total of 83 plus 9, 94. So 50 of it is personnel related. Some of it related to being fully staffed. 30,000 of it's related to health insurance costs. That's 50. And then I don't see a lot of other increases.
Operationally, there were no increases.
So how do we?
Risk management allocation was increased. That's a
Where
severe.
is that?
That's on the top,
Ah,
320 interfund transfers. This
Gotcha.
last year, that was $5,000.
Yeah, yeah.
And then
Okay,
it's up to
risk management.
74,000.
Yeah, so we're doing a better job. The risk management allocation went from 5,000 to 74,000. So a lot of that relates to risks related to streets really have to do with one of the two largest claims. One of them is PD, second one is trip and falls.
Trip and falls.
So we're allocating, you know, in the claims that we see are trip and falls, a lot of them, or manhole covers, or things out in the streets, right? So we're allocating.
Some funds to cover.
Yeah.
Our portion of that, not insurance.
Yeah, so it would be what we pay in insurance, right? On an annual basis, we're allocating it to the departments that are responsible. So and part of this, the other part of this is to say to management staff, how are you going to decrease this?
Right.
Well, you decrease it by not exposing yourself. So everybody's learning about risk management and about how, okay, you know, it really is important to make sure that we've got cones out. It's really important that we're grinding our sidewalks or fixing our sidewalks, trimming our trees. I mean, I had a risk pool meeting today with four of our other people. We were talking about potentially increasing the amount of liability insurance we carry as a pool by $10,000. And we're thinking, excess coverage is already at 34.5 million. And it's like, we don't see that kind of claims. We don't see, we're gonna have to lose a lawsuit, which we don't have any lawsuits. But if someone did trip and fall and there was major health problems or what have you, apparently nowadays, that's not a crazy number that people ask for. Anyway, the point is the top 5 reasons that cities get sued have to do with police, mistreatment by police, trip and falls, tree limbs coming down on property or people, crazy things like that. So what we want to do is, for those departments that are in charge of managing the risk, charge them what's out there. Hopefully next year, when we look at this number, it's going to be less. And that's going to be partially due because we got a little track record of being safer.
You got that one?
Yeah, I did. I got it. I understand. I'm just trying to figure out how to tighten the belt, where to tighten the belt. And
I do have a couple more questions on that under animal control, Paul. And this is 230 animal control. It's the second page. About halfway down, it shows animal control services, and there shows a charge there of 65,000. I numbered the pages. Mine's 19, but
230.
yeah, it's 230.
And then what are you looking for? What are you looking at?
Way down about two-thirds of the way down the page, it shows animal control services. It shows 45,000 the year before and 65, and then each of these 2 years. I wasn't sure.
Oh,
Animal
okay.
control services would be. I mean, it just seems.
Is that like county contracts?
Yeah, that's the contract with the vet. That's the contract with the vet team. When we have to.
Sorry.
There you go.
That's when we have to take the dogs or the animals to the vet and stuff.
Okay, so it's vets, it's disposal fees for deceased animals that they pick up. We have a contract with county, SPCA, and they get so much money for each thing. So it's keeping the streets clean and turning over animals to SPCA.
Yeah, most of what I've got marked here is IT or HR or health insurance. So, any other questions from any other council? I'd like to go back to your suggestions, Paul. Some of these, I agree with you 100%. Some of them I'm not really comfortable with, to be quite honest. The let's see. The personnel modification, are we talking about just step increases? We talking about COLAs? What are we talking about there on that?
Which one? So I've got four
Yeah,
personnel modifications.
modifications, you've got hiring freeze, I understand. That's just basically anybody leaves,
Yeah,
we don't refill a position right away.
right, right. So the second one is, so whenever the normal situation, if you've got an employee that is performing the way that you're asking the employee to act and work, normally they would get a personnel review every year, and they would get a step increase. Those step increases, depending on depending on what organization they're in or what their job is, range from, I think right now it's between 4% and 5%. We're working on standardizing that to be an even 5%. We're not quite there yet. But so what the idea is here is, on a temporary basis, not on a permanent basis, we would rescind those raises, those step increases. We would freeze, it would be frozen basically, so that you still get your personnel review as you should, but you wouldn't necessarily be getting a step increase. The value of doing that across the board is about $220,000.
But doesn't that come back around to get you again when the next year? I mean, you're building on that.
If you let it.
Yeah.
Because that will be an ask, no doubt.
I just think personally that's not good relations with your unions. I don't see that one as being a real positive way to do this. I understand the freezes, that's not directed. The work furlough, can you explain the work furlough thing to me?
Yeah, so the way that we envisioned it last year was that we would have a work furlough, which would basically decrease the number of hours that we are working, which means City Hall. I mean, this obviously doesn't hold true for public safety. They're still working the way they were working. But for the rest of us, we work 4 days a week. We work 32 hours instead of 40 hours a week. And so City Hall would be closed one day potentially, or we do overlapping schedules to where we'd have limited staff for 5 days a week, depending on how much you wanted to impact our services. Services will certainly be impacted, but hours open at City Hall doesn't necessarily have to be something. If we still want to be open at City Hall, we would just have less staff working at any particular time. So it's really about reducing the number of hours that you're working, each individual, and you would be getting paid less because you're working less hours.
And I understand your sales tax revenue with your wastewater treatment plant equipment. I'm just a little nervous about putting that someplace where it's a one-time shot. So we've got to be careful about the majority of our budget is personnel. So I mean, we'd have to be real careful as to where you put that and spend that.
Right. Well, and so we have to remember also we will be pursuing this anyway, because I don't want somebody else to get this money. We should be able to do it. It's ours, exactly. So the timing is really the only thing that's potentially an issue. So if we budgeted for it, that's one thing. If we didn't budget for it, we might be getting it anyway. And, maybe to your point, it's going to be in June, July, August, but it will be accrued into this next fiscal year. Right. So, I understand what you're saying.
Okay. Say with your rec center permit, are we actually going to be issuing that permit and under construction by, June of next year? I mean,
Well, that's the idea. Yeah,
okay.
it is. I mean, they've done
Kind
a
of the same
lot
thing
of the
with that one,
design.
so.
Yeah, yeah. And then, I mean, yeah, yeah. Mhm. Yeah,
Okay.
so that is, I'm gonna say that's less certain
Okay,
than I think the sales tax one is.
okay.
You know, the other part of it is, you know, it may be more than 180,000. I don't know, maybe less.
We're still quite a ways off on our numbers.
Mhm.
I truly don't feel comfortable with the temporary rescinding of the raises. I don't know how the rest of the council feels, but I think that's one we got to stay away from.
Okay.
You have any other, I mean, last year we had this meeting and
Yeah.
we basically said, you know, let's trim it up, let's balance it. And you came back to us with a second proposal when we adopted the agenda. Is that
Yeah.
something we could do again? I mean, I know last time you basically went to each department and said, you know,
Yeah.
certain amount,
Yeah.
you got to take it off.
Yeah. we
I
can
would
do
feel
that.
more comfortable with that than some of these proposals, to be honest with you.
Okay, can I get an idea? And I don't know if we can do this because I don't know if it's a decision or whatever. Are there anything that's on here that makes sense?
Well, I think I think your hiring freeze makes sense. I think your,
Potentially the PD, the modification of
the PD idea with adding the personnel there, I think
Okay.
that makes perfect sense. That's a no-brainer. It's just a better structure to save money.
It just seems it's really hard, as if I weren't sitting here and I was just seeing the numbers, it's really hard to see that the personnel people would take a bigger hit and they're taking less of the budget as it is. Don't get offended, PD. But PD does take the biggest portion of the budget and they're gonna take the lowest amount of hit in comparison, especially if we tell them, we're not giving you raises and we're gonna cut your days. It's either or, I think. Either we freeze the raise and we don't cut the days, or we cut the days when we do the other. But I'm just saying, I'm just gonna say, it doesn't look fair that the PD gets most of our money and still gets most of the money, and the people that are gonna get hit the hardest is not PD or fire. And I understand they're important and all that. I understand, I do, I really, really, really do. And I did a little bit of reading, is it just Greenfield? It's everywhere. And, you know, the Monterey County Sheriff's, I was reading their stuff too. Yeah, there's a lot that's being asked of them and they're not getting money, and they're asked to be doing things and they're not getting the funding to get it done. Cities are what they call defunding. They're just taking money away from the police department to cover. I was reading the research between crime and the number of police officers out there, or the size of the PD department. And it's not really accurate when people say the bigger your PD, the less crime. That's not necessarily true. There are places that have a lot of crime and a lot of PD, or the other way around. They have a lot of PD and not much crime, or much crime and blah, blah. So that's just every culture of every city has to look into it. So I'm just having a really tough time, especially as I see people in the audience, because I'm talking people who run our city, and we need their services. And it just makes me a little angry that PD gets off easy. That's just the way it looks to me. And conversations I'm having with people out there. And I think they're, when you just look at the numbers, yeah, and it's easier for me now that I'm sitting here and looking line by line, why is this and why is this and where does this cost and stuff. I see that, and I don't know where to tighten the belt anymore. I really don't, but we're gonna have to.
Yeah, I'd feel more comfortable doing belt tightening across the board rather than specific.
I was gonna say same thing that Mayor said, that last time you went back in every department, you know, they looked again, and sometimes we have to look multiple times to see where we can cut. I know that almost every city, county, everything is always PD takes the biggest piece of the pie. It's just the way it is. But the way I look at it is that I've lived in this city when we didn't have a full PD. When, I'm gonna say it, we didn't have a competent PD. And we had 26 unsolved murders. Everybody was just doing as they pleased. There was no control over our city. And that's when our city actually declined. That's why a lot of our city looks the way that it does right now, because we had that decline. It took a lot of time to get back to where we are right now, where we feel safe. There's always going to be crime. And unfortunately, you know, I know firsthand that these criminals are getting smarter. They're using technology. If we don't give our PD what they need to combat that, we're gonna land up right back where we were again with 26 murders. We had no murders last year. If we have to put more money into the PD, you know, within reason, to not have another murder, to not have another family lose their loved one, then that's where I'm gonna go. I'm gonna be with the police department. I don't like, you know, for the staff to rescinding raises. That's not what we want to do. We were able to do it last year. This is the case everywhere right now. That's why I was late today, because this is exactly what I was doing, cutting somewhere else where we have to cut staff, and it's not fun. It's not fun. And, you know, and it hurts me to see people lose their jobs, or, you know, everybody's in need right now. But at the same time, if we don't provide for our PD and fire department, we're gonna land up in a big trouble here. And right now, we're actually turning the corner on the way our city looks and the safety of our city. You know, we're getting there, but it's gonna take money to do it. And, but again, you know, every department, you know, within reason, I don't mind giving them money, but within reason, but at the same time, everybody needs to figure out and go through their budget again and figure out what we can cut.
One thing we have to remember, I mean, all these departments are 24/7. I mean, they're on all the time. PD, fire, public works. I mean, all those departments are 24/7 things. So those are going to cost, they are going to cost. So, and we definitely need that. So, any other comments or anything else? Do you need anything more from us, Paul? I mean,
I know it's hard, Paul. I do, but I think public safety is not negotiable. Yeah, and so the same thing the council said. I don't think rescinding is going to be an option. Work furloughs, neither. For me, I think a hiring freeze, I could see that, and I could see the 2 officers option, but that's
yeah, the restructuring makes more sense.
Yes.
Right?
And that will then everybody take somewhat of a hit, but not 100%, because I would hate to lose anybody from the police department or fire.
Right, okay. So I don't know if I heard, because of all these things, I get the personnel modifications. I put it out there because it's always an option. You don't want to do it? That's awesome. Let's not do it. The sales tax revenue increase, I feel less strong about the permit. I mean, I'm not negotiating this. I just want you to know that. But I feel more strongly about being able to increase the sales tax because of the wastewater treatment plant purchases for 2 reasons. One is it's going to happen. It's a timing issue. It's not, I mean, the total amount isn't 180,000. That's what we'd be able to recognize this year. It's really more like 625,000, probably over, you know, the second half of 27, first half of 28. So
you're more comfortable with that?
I'm more comfortable with that one. The permit revenue.
The building permit thing.
Okay, because I don't know that we're going to break ground by 6:30. we can give it a shot. But if we don't do those, I mean, there's still a piece missing related to the rec center. And that's, if it costs $25 million, where are we getting the last $8 million?
Right.
And so we'll have to discuss that if we want to move forward. We'll have some options, but the point is, I feel less about that. I feel more strongly about the 180 for the sales tax because it's gonna show up. It's a matter of when.
Okay.
Yeah, and if it's off, okay, I blew it, but it's 180,000 on a $22 million budget.
I don't know how the rest of the council feels. I feel okay with that one, then being as you
Okay.
structure it that way.
Okay. Okay, then great. Then I think it's doable. I think we can do it, hopefully to present a balanced budget at this meeting of the 2nd. So we don't have to have a special meeting, hopefully. And you'll certainly get the numbers. Yeah. No, I'll let you ask that, but I'm not going to ask you that. Yeah, they don't want any services.
We didn't hear you.
Okay, we'll work that out, staff level, thank you. Yeah. No, I think it's an across the board, let's give ourselves a haircut, and we'll have to deal with what we deal with. What will happen, I'm assuming, unless, of course, we've already inflated our budget and we're just cutting out the inflation factor. We will have a few things probably that we have to say, we're not going to be able to do X, Y, and Z maybe. And that'll come back just so everybody knows, okay, we're risking this. Now, if some of these other things happen, we freeze hiring and a couple of people leave and we're okay with not hiring, so we may not even have some of these issues, but then we might have it as well. So we just need to know that going in. Okay. Yeah, I think we can do it. We will come back, hopefully with the balanced budget on the 2nd.
The 9th.
9th, sorry, on the 9th, thank you. And we will, I don't know, hopefully be at a point where we can ask to have it approved. If not, we've got the 2nd meeting in June to do that, if we need to sharpen pencils and all that. But I think that that's not insurmountable.
Okay. Thank you very much, Paul. Appreciate
Thank you very
kind of
much.
put you on the spot there, and I
Well, no,
appreciate I would like everybody to be educated as much as possible as to revenues, expenses. It's all here. Anybody wants to take a look at it, it's all here in black and white.
Absolutely right.
Just the more information that we have, the clearer it is for everyone, the more willing I think people will be able to accept what we're doing. And I'm happy to see there was no recommendation for layoffs. So, in a lot of areas, that's going to be happening. So
Yeah, we could be, there are a lot of
I'm happy
places that have
see that
bigger
also.
problems than we do. Yep, all right.
All right.
Thank
Mr.
you very
Mayor,
much, Council.
Mr.
Meeting
Mayor,
is adjourned.
You heard him, start cutting.